It's Monday, and like every Monday, we're going to be pulling up the next gen stats to analyze the trends for these wide receivers. This is going to help us with the waiver wire. If you still got trades open, I'm looking at you guys in dynasty leagues. These guys are going to help you make your moves, help you with your pickups, your drops, your confirmation bias, whatever you're needing for your fantasy team. But what you need to do right now, click that subscribe button. Tap it with your finger on your phone. Click it with the mouse on your computer, whatever you need to do. We go deep on the waiver wire every day. We help you set your lineups. We help you build your fantasy team. Stop missing out. Click that button. And we're going to start things off with Jonathan Mingo getting 10 targets in his contest against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This one was a wet one as it was raining during the majority of the game here. Got some deep targets, got targets all over the place. Ran a lot of routes in this game as well. Caught 6 balls, 69 yards. This is 2 games in a row where he scored double-digit PPR fantasy points, and he's also pushing a 20% target share over his last 4 games. So he's getting targeted more, and you can see this from week 10, he's got 7 targets. Week 11, 6. Week 12, 6. Week 13, 10. So we're seeing an increase here in the workload. Is he a waiver wire dandy? It's going to be hard to trust him in Carolina, but he is seeing a target increase depending on how bad you are at wide receiver, how much you need a wide receiver. Most of the people watching this channel now is probably working on getting in the playoffs. You might need him if you're hurting, but it's really going to be hard to rely on him going forward. But note him as a rookie who's increasing his production, his workload toward the back 9 of the season, and keep an eye on him. Alec Pierce had a smash spot here against Tennessee Titans, especially with the game script breaking, going into overtime. This is a good matchup for a guy like him because he gets the air yards, he gets those deep targets. You see it on the chart right there. He's a player that does not hit on every single week, does not hit most weeks, isn't usable in fantasy in most weeks. But the thing is, on these softer matchups, where teams can throw the ball in that defense, like against Tennessee, where they're more of a pass funnel defense, you can use Alec Pierce in DFS, especially as a cheap option. Use him on the back end of your lineup. Hope and pray that this is the game where he scores 19 fantasy points because he gets those deep targets, and see if he hits. Also, if you're hurting at the wide receiver spot and you're needing a guy to cash out big, and you need to gamble, a player like this, not just Alec Pierce, not him in general, but as strategy, these deep ball wide receivers, you put them in your lineup, you close your eyes, and you pray to the fantasy gods, and if they bring in a pass or two, where he brought in 3 for 100 yards, you hit that week. Odds are you're not, but if you're going to do that, I would do that with a wide receiver like this who gets those deep targets. That's what Alec Pierce is. So if you're setting lineups in DFS and you got a matchup like this, and it's a matchup where you can see the Colts going off, throwing some deep bombs, maybe Alec Pierce can hit for you. Nico Collins. Let's pour some liquor out for Tank Dell real quick. Pour that out. But he has been hitting it hard in stride right now. Last 3 weeks, 13 fantasy points in week 11, 23 in week 12, 34 in week 13. We should just see him continue to get targeted now because Tank Dell's going to be out. He is a lock every week. He's been a lock. He's even a stickier lock than expected. Look for him to finish the year strong. Now, I don't have much to say other than he's good, and CJ Stroud has been awesome. Puka Nacua, matchup proof with Stafford. Up and down volatility during the season, but he's been very strong this year. 7 targets in this matchup, caught 4 balls for 105 yards and 1 touchdown. Should see his dynasty stock rise throughout the offseason. Going to be a highly debated player. I can't wait to hear the arguments about him because people are going to be on both sides of the fence due to his draft capital and college production, stuck in take lock, but he's been baller this year. He's been productive and he's looked good. Elijah Moore starting to heat up a little bit. Look at him over the last 4 weeks. Week 10, 15 fantasy points. Week 11, 12. Week 12, 5. Week 13, 12.3. Amari Cooper came out in this contest, but the trends have been going with Amari Cooper in the lineup over these last few weeks, And prior to that, earlier in the season, as he's been pushing a 20% target share or a little bit more off and on throughout the season, especially these last few games. Again, a wide receiver who's pushing around a 20% target share, even in a bad offense, even if they haven't been hitting, is a wide receiver you need to look at, because any given Sunday, they could go off because they're getting targets. That's what they're saying. If there's more targets in the offense and he's seeing 20% of them, guess what? He's seeing more targets in that matchup. That's what we're seeing here with Elijah Moore. He's almost quarterback proof. It seems like the worse the quarterback position gets for the Browns, the more targets he gets. Flacco loved targeting him. He sent him 12 targets in this matchup. And again, Elijah Moore's good. He's a good wide receiver. He's getting volume here. And if you need a wide receiver to pick up, he's getting a 20+% target share right now. He's a guy you need to look at least if you need targets at the wide receiver position. Due to it being Joe Flacco, due to it being the Browns right now, you can't trust it. But Elijah Moore seeing a lot of targets. Devonte Parker. Demario Douglas was out, and we were wondering which wide receiver was going to get the targets and the opportunities in this offense. Was it him? Was it Juju? Was it Thornton? Who was going to get it? It was Devonte Parker. He saw some deep targets. He got some opportunity with some air yards in this matchup. 9 targets, caught 4 of them for 64 yards. And you know what? He could have some splash performances down the line if he keeps getting deep balls. But he's a player you're never going to trust unless you're in a super deep league. But he's probably rostered in a super deep league due to Douglas being out anyways. Mike Evans, and we're just gloating on him, really. We're going to fill up that cup of confirmation bias that you had during draft day, because we said it. We were watching drafts, watching him fall farther than ADP in a lot of drafts in August, and we're just wondering who was going to select him and how far he was going to fall, and we said, hey, this might not be the best decision for you. And you're pulling up old tweets from Twitter of people talking down on Mike Evans, and he is an air yards machine with a quarterback that throws deep bombs and goes YOLO, and that is just the perfect match for him. 12 targets, 7 catches, 162 yards, 1 touchdown, and it's been like that all season long. DeAndre Hopkins can get it on any given Sunday. Will Levis loves to throw the deep ball. Sometimes the coaching staff likes to corral him in, but he saw 12 targets, 5 catches for 75 yards and a touchdown. Very powerful performance. And DeAndre Hopkins is that old workhorse wide receiver who's still very nuanced, who can still make plays downfield. Works well with Will Levis when he's cashing. And if Will Levis is hitting, DeAndre Hopkins is hitting. Deep balls are coming. Will Levis confronted him in this matchup. I also want to bring that up before someone does in the comments. But if you have an opinion on that and you need to drop it, go ahead. But again, DeAndre Hopkins can get it on any given Sunday. Curtis Samuel, the wide receiver in the Washington Commanders that got some opportunity in this game. And again, it was that Dolphins matchup. And we were wondering which wide receiver was going to get the opportunity to put up fantasy points. He saw 5 targets, caught 4 of them for 65 yards. Terry McLaurin was on the low, and Curtis Samuel got some opportunities. It was not as grandiose as we were thinking for this batch of wide receivers, but still, he was able to get you by if you picked him up off waivers. Tyreek Hill, and you think, why are we talking about Tyreek Hill? We know about Tyreek Hill. Well, we do know about Tyreek Hill, but I think we need to shine a spotlight on him because I think we're not being grateful to what type of wide receiver he is. I think he's developing into one of the all-time greats, and I think he's a wide receiver that once his career is done, we're going to look back on it, and we're going to be like, damn, Tyreek Hill, one of the best wide receivers of all time, and we never really enjoyed it. We never really took it in, and he's coming up with performances like this off and on throughout the season with good performances in between it, which is crazy. Catching 5 balls, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's what Tyreek Hill does. Probably will be one of the best wide receivers of all time. Where he's at in the ranks, I have not contemplated that yet, but I do know we're seeing greatness right now, and I want to shine a light on that. So you guys, don't overthink it. He is a good wide receiver who's going to be ranked among the best here in the near future. But those are the trends from this week, even throughout the season. That will help you with fantasy because we're looking at the numbers. Some of these guys are picking up off waivers. Some of this is confirmation bias. Some of this are guys you're going to want to trade for, probably in Dynasty. We're talking about arguments that will probably happen in the offseason. That's why we look at the trends, because we really want to know what's going on at the wide receiver position. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I want to hear about it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.